The Rebel Capitalist Show.
I always tell people, listen, just, do some due diligence. Look at a country that you think you might like spending time, such as, let's say, Colombia. 3.5 hour flight from Miami, no problem. But go there for a couple weeks on your next vacation. See if you like it. And if you do like it, which I assume you will, then set up a bank account there. Just go through the process, get it done, and then come back to the United States and then discuss it more. And then maybe if it's something that you want to take the next step, consider buying some real estate there, maybe a small apartment, and then apply for your visa, your investor visa, and then kind of go through, and every step takes you closer to getting that second passport. And if you get it, then all of a sudden you got your dual citizenship, you got your plan B. So if it hits the fan in the US, you want to just get out and watch things from a distance, and you go down to Colombia, you already know you enjoy spending time there. That's kind of taking baby steps, but you're the pro. How do you suggest people do that? And then I want to kind of outline how different people can do it at different income brackets. Say you're making 250 plus, you're making 100, or you're making 50.
Well, let me start with just the general idea. I agree with going, and I think one of the great first steps people can do is they can open a bank account. Now, as someone who owns a property in Colombia, and I've been through the process in Colombia, it's often hard to get cash out of the ATM. I mean, I think if you bring a dime into that country, they've got a dog on you. So that's not the place you're going to go and get a bank account. They're very strict there. But could you go to Ecuador, for example, and get a bank account? Yeah, you can. In fact, they pay a lot higher interest, and the official currency of Ecuador is the US dollar. So not a great diversification tool, but at least it's an easy step if you're an American to step into. And so I do think that first step is interesting, because here's what you're going to do. If you go to an Ecuador, an Armenia, a Georgia, something like that, where you can open a bank account, it's pretty much any nationality. They don't really need to deal with residents, as many countries now do. Let's say you put $100, $500, $1,000 in there. You're going to go home, and you're going to go and you're going to look 6 months later, and miraculously your money is still there. Maybe you take some out of the ATM, and you realize it's all pretty much the same.
Right.
Okay. Don't go and put your money in a Syrian bank and expect the best experience. But we're using reasonable precautions here. And I've had over 1,000 people, probably more even now, write to us and say, "Hey, I went to Georgia and opened a bank account." And I go and I talk to the government. I say, "Listen, do you know how many of these people, they started there and then they went out and then they're thinking about it, and then they came back because they loved the wine, they loved the food, they loved how affordable it was." One comment people tell me about Yerevan and Tbilisi in those countries is, "It's a lot better than I thought." And so they come back, and maybe the next time they buy an apartment. I've had people say, "Oh yeah, I bought an apartment for $200,000. Now, where I think I would change the strategy is, I would look at diversifying it. So Colombia, for example, might not be a bad place to live, and I might buy an apartment there. If I'm going to live in Colombia more than 6 months a year, it's tax city. So I'm going to make sure I have somewhere else to go for the rest of the year if I don't want to be sucked into their net. It takes a number of years to get their passport. It may not be the good only passport to have. It's a good plan B, though. What I would do is I would just probably be doing a couple of different things at once. I might go and set up a residence somewhere in a country where I didn't have to live there a lot of the year to later get a passport. And then make Colombia where I live, make somewhere else where I bank, make somewhere else where I've got the passport brewing. I might go out and try and get a passport through my ancestry. If I've got a parent, great-grandparent, or grandparent, great-grandparent that I can get immediately. I might make an investment if I'm wealthy enough. I did the St. Lucia passport program. You send them $100,000, they send you a passport a few months later. No muss, no fuss. And you think they're going to impose a bunch of taxes on their citizens and stop the flow of people coming and making investments in their country? Of course not. So I would try and divvy it up a little bit. But I think you're right that the first step is proving to yourself that it can be done, right, and that your money's not going to be sucked into a black hole.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And just putting your big toe in the water and just kind of getting acclimated to it. And I can almost promise you that once you start going through the process, once you spend a little time there, you're like, wait a minute, this isn't like moving to a different country. It's basically like moving to a different state. It's like going from California to Texas or something like that. It's a lot less scary.
But I always tell people, don't do that, because once you're moving, Where are the kids going to go to school? Everything's going to be so. Once you're moving, you might as well just give it all it's got. You might as well just go over to Puerto Rico, Panama, push the pedal to the metal. Once you're changing your life, just push it all the way it can go.
Yeah, I try to tell people that there's so many places in the world where the quality of life is just as good as the United States, if not a lot better,
So much
when
better.
you look at the cost of living. And it's just about getting out there and experiencing it yourself. And one thing with Colombia is I got set up with Alianza back in 2015 when I first went there. And I've had like kind of my person there. I know them on a first name basis. I'm down there all the time in Medellin. And once I got connected to them, setting up a bank account with Banco Colombia, it was just super, super, super easy. But you got to have that in and that person first. If you don't have that, then yeah, they're looking at you like, who the heck is
that is the thing about the world, right? And this is what I've spent 13 years doing, is building that network. And a lot of people don't know what they're doing, even in their own country. Sometimes I'll go and I know more than they do. And so that's not the person you want. But admittedly, there's no Zillow for buying real estate, for example. By the way, someone should, I've been saying that for years, someone should start that. And someone actually did go to Serbia. I don't know if they're a fan of ours or not. And they started the most beautiful website, City Expert, for buying property. I mean, it looks like a US quality website. It's very rare in many of these countries. But that opaqueness, comes with a lot of benefits: better lifestyle, lower costs, lower taxes.
Yeah, and going back to your real estate point, it creates a massively inefficient market, which if you know what you're doing,
Right.
you can really leverage that. You can make a lot of money because of those inefficiencies. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get your butt handed to you because you're just the gringo coming down there playing gringo prices. And just sometimes that's, who knows, double, triple the price that most of the locals would be paying. I know you've gone over that in a lot of your podcasts as well. And doing business in Colombia in real estate since 2015, I see it happen constantly. The gringos come down and they just want it to be like the United States. They want it simple. They just want to go online. They want their real estate agent just to show them everything available, and they just want to pick one when the week that they're there and assume they're just paying market price because they go over the comps. They don't realize that maybe 10% of the properties for sale are actually online. And you know how Colombia works. People just put a for sale sign in their window, and you just got to literally walk around to try to find them. But go over how that works and kind of maybe the opportunities that you've seen with real estate in all these countries that are a lot less efficient than the United States.
I think they're almost all less efficient, and it can be intimidating. But I think sometimes people are looking for a free lunch, right? I mean, I've gotten pretty spoiled with the relatively low cost of living, and I'm not a guy seeking a low cost of living. I just enjoy that you go to a nice restaurant and it costs a lot less than it would in the U.S.
Yeah.
But with this, there was a period of adjustment to realizing not everything is different. There's still things I wish were a bit more like the United States, and there's still things I wish the United States were like other places. But, there's a lot of money to be made. There's a lot of money to be saved. Now, my clientele that I talk to, they're making, from $500,000 a year up to $50 million a year. They have net worths from whatever up to billions. So, I mean, I'm not, I'm speaking to someone for whom just making the move, you'll save millions of dollars in the first couple of years just in taxes, let alone cost of living savings. So for me, I have a friend who runs a business in Cambodia buying properties. He just hires local people. It's, $300-400 a month is a very good salary there, I think now. And they're just calling these for sale signs. And that's how they find apartment buildings for $800 a meter in the middle of the city, in the middle of the capital city, Phnom Penh. Yeah. And, he set up a Cambodian company. People can buy into it because it's hard to own property, or pretty much impossible now to own individual properties like that as a foreigner. But he can own them in this company. And so there was some footwork setting up, but I mean, his returns now are, I think, pretty good for really core, grade A property. Colombia is the same thing. And, this is something that we do in our business where I tell people bring me, I'll say, hey, let's do your Colombian residence. And they'll bring me some property and I'll say, that's 40% too much because they went to the American guy. Let me be the white guy who goes in fronts with the agents we found on the ground. Because you're right. If it's online, you're probably paying too much.
And if it's in English.
oh, if it's in English, you're dead.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked about this. We've talked about, should we have a service that just helps people only, you know, you don't want the passport, you don't want the bank, you just want the real estate. I think it's worth people, you know, paying some money to get that help. But, you know, whether other people agree, I don't know. But it is a very opaque market in many cases.
Yeah.